Home Podcast time.
That's right. Binford Tools is proud to present a home improvement podcast. My name is Adam Yoel and my co-host Jordan. Hi, Jordan.
Hey, Adam. How are you?
Good.
I think this might be a silly episode.
I think so too. Getting a little goofy before hitting record. But hey, I'm really happy to be here with you talking. Well, we'll get into what we're talking, but how are you?
I'm good. I'm not sure I'm as happy to see you.
How come?
I'd rather just us record a podcast in person sometime. We can get the whole family around, get the kids around. Everybody can kind of speak into an episode. Because now, my daughter's going to have takes.
Oh, she's got takes.
Because we're through season 1 already of Home Improvement. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So she's seen the snake in the wall. She's seen the aliens. Has she seen Stu Cutler?
She was not as impressed with Stu Cutler as we
Oh,
were.
man. Okay.
That's an old man's game. So
yeah, for whom the belch tolls doesn't apply to, well, I don't even know. What comes after Gen Z?
Alpha. I don't know.
Alpha. All right.
I'm making that up.
But she's liking the show.
You know, it's become a bit of a routine when my son goes to bed first. She gets to stay up a little bit later because they will not let me put them to bed. Only mom can put them to bed.
Interesting.
And so the reward is that she comes in, she says, Home Improvement, and she gets it turned on and stuff. So,
and what a reward that is.
Yeah, we all are enjoying it together. So
that's great. Wow.
Yeah, we just watched Kiki something. I forget what her last name was.
Yes.
When she's not Debbie, when Debbie Dunning is not the Tool Girl, she's like her first.
Two guys try to remember Home Improvement,
and I have some recency. The overactive glance where Tim can't stop looking at women. So,
hey, I mean that's Home Improvement in a nutshell.
She
right
didn't.
There.
My daughter looked at me and was like, "Are you like this, Dad?" And I said,
"Oh, okay." Oh. And you said, "Never."
I said, "I will not answer this question."
It's not Kiki Vandeweghe. That's like a Pistons person.
That's a basketball player, yeah. Yep.
Okay. Not that. Well, Kiki something. Heck of an episode. This used to be a show where we talked about the television program Home Improvement.
You could tell by our logo and the name of the podcast, maybe.
Right. We stopped doing that when we ran out of episodes in about 2021. And since that time, we've kind of been all over the place.
Yeah. I don't know what our brand is at this point, but we do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, some loose screws, some...
Loose screws is a movement for sure. We've covered some films. You know, we're trying to keep it in the television, home improvement universe, I guess I would say.
What was it, the HICU? Home Improvement
yes, universe? The HICU. I have forgotten about the HICU.
Yeah.
We're trying to keep it in the HICU, and we will do that again today. Before we get too deep in the episode, I did want to give a quick shout out. We've got a couple of new listeners.
We do? Are they tweeting at you? Tweet?
No, they're texting my wife because they're they're relatives.
Okay, all right.
So I want to say thanks to my nephew Ben and sister-in-law Jordan, who at least listened to the last episode, and I think will probably listen to this one, especially if they know that their names are mentioned.
That's very exciting. You know, I would not know if anyone new has listened to us via Facebook because I was recently locked out of Facebook and just got access like a day or two ago.
I was going to ask because I was trying to get in there and it wouldn't let me.
Well, it turns out somebody hacked me and then linked an Instagram account and then posted some things that were not up to the community standards.
Oh, I hate to hear that. And I also hate to hear you lying about the things you post on Instagram.
You know what? Jokes on Facebook or Meta or whatever you want to say, because I'm back in, baby.
You did it. You did the darn thing.
They said it couldn't be done, but I found a way.
Nevertheless, he persisted. You know, I'm so happy to hear that. And we will talk about Facebook a little bit at the end because I have a request for you.
Oh, well, that's quite a tease.
A tease indeed. What are we talking about today? I'm gonna answer that question because I'm the one that kind of threw all this together.
I like when you ask questions to yourself and then answer them.
Myself.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. What are we covering today? Well, let me tell you. Today we are going to count down our 10 favorite 90s television shows.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure I had 10 here.
make sure you have 10. I have some honorable mentions and not in contention. So what we're going to do is we're going to be going back and forth. I gave you some very strict guidelines, Jordan. I hope to heck you followed them.
Well, that remains to be seen.
Okay, well, I'll tell you the guidelines again just so that you can be sure that you did or didn't.
So I can make them up on the fly?
Yeah, so you can quickly delete Twilight Zone. That's not a 90s show, Jordan. All right, so these are our 10 favorites. These are not necessarily the best shows in the 90s. Just going to say that off the bat. Yeah. All lists are subjective. I'm not, we're not...
and I didn't watch everything. I don't have an opinion on...
Okay.
Just Shoot Me, even though everyone says it's the number one show of the 90s, because I didn't really watch it. So I did not put that on my list.
I can't talk about Veronica's Closet because I never opened the damn door. All right. So these are our 10 favorites, not necessarily the best. I did watch every show, actually, so I could do that, but I'm not going to.
You watched every 90s show, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. You've always had a little bit more time.
Especially now. All kinds of television formats are eligible.
Everything. We got talk shows. We've got live. What do they call that?
Sketch.
Yeah, sketch, non-scripted, and we've got scripted. Everything is on here.
Thanks for listing all those.
Yeah, I tried to do. I felt like I tried to do a little variety, even though these might not have made my top 10 originally.
Okay.
So
all right. And then this was the caveat that I kind of had. Unless the show was canceled after one season, 2 of its seasons must have taken place in the 90s for it to be considered a 90s show.
Now, here's something I didn't get to ask you, because I did clarify a little bit when you first put the boundaries on this.
Yeah.
Did it have to start in the 90s, or could it start pre-90s and still be running in the 90s?
Great question. It didn't have to start in the 90s, though all of mine did.
Okay.
I was pretty strict on this. There was one, and we're going to talk about it probably in a second. There was one show that could have qualified given the rules, but just in my heart of hearts does not feel like a 90s show to me. So I said, get out.
You sit out with it. Yeah, I have a couple that might not. They meet my standards, but maybe not yours. So how about that? So
they'll be ruled ineligible, and you'll be forced to come up with replacements on the spot.
Just shoot me. It's in my back pocket.
Cool. I also want to say, and I was going to say this off the bat, but, I know people come to Home and Podcast for, like, crisp recordings and good sound quality and no background noise.
Do they?
There's certainly never been any, like, lawn mowing, dogs barking, cats meowing,
crackling mics,
crackling, babies crying. I know there's never been any of that. Today, I would prepare yourself for perhaps
anything.
An infant crying, a dog barking, steps upstairs. Just expect the unexpected when it comes to background noises in this one. And then you won't be disappointed when you hear a lot.
That's right. Keep your expectations low. That is kind of the way I've always gone through life.
Okay. Right. So I just wanted to get that.
Nice disclaimer. I like it.
Yes.
With that in rear view, are you ready, or do you have more ground rules?
Do you want me to give my honorable mentions and not in contention, but would have been ranked before or after?
Let's lead off with them. Let's warm up a little bit with those bad boys.
Okay. All right. So, not in contention for me, but would have been ranked. The Sopranos technically started in 1999, but it doesn't meet the 2 seasons rule. It just nobody thinks of that as a 90s show. The West Wing is another one. Same thing.
That does feel like a 90s show to me.
Started in 1999. To me, it doesn't. Okay. Started in 99. I didn't include SNL because that's not a show that I think of as being a 90s show. I think of it as just, it's in its 50th year. So
we'll talk about that. It's on my list pretty high up, actually.
That was a spoiler. That was a choice I made. And then the same goes for Cheers. Cheers ran for, I think, 4 seasons in 1994. Definitely feels like more of an 80s show to me than a 90s show. So I wouldn't rank it.
You said Cheers.
Yep.
R.I.P. Norm.
Yeah, I know. He was really good in the JTT movie with Chevy Chase. What's the name of that?
Oh boy, I just tried to.
Man of the House.
Yeah, Man of the House. So you got it.
Yeah, he was good in that.
He was. I've always enjoyed George Wendt. So
a lot of people. I hear a lot of people saying that movie that it is culturally insensitive, but kind of liked it.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it.
I don't know what you want me to say. All right, my honorable mentions. You don't need to comment on these because some of these may be on your list.
Okay.
This is probably number one on your list, but honorable mention for me was Smart Guy. Okay. Saved by the Bell. Smart Guy, good show. Just didn't quite crack the list. Saved by the Bell. I like the idea of it more than I actually like it, and I don't think I've seen that many episodes. Beverly Hills 90210. Not something I started watching until within maybe the last handful of years. Haven't seen that many episodes. Couldn't rank it. And South Park. I just, there's some highs in South Park. I just don't seem to like it as much as other people, but I suspect we might be talking about it
This
later.
will be really interesting because you're going to get a window into the shows that we watch, and I suspect we'll have different personas based on the way this is going. So
And perspectives abound, Jordan.
As they do.
I think what we'll do is we'll go kind of back and forth.
Yeah.
We will have some crossover. I think that if someone has one on their list, they shouldn't necessarily say they have it later on. Just sort of when you have the opportunity to talk about it, just say, just kind of quickly move on, if that makes sense. I don't want, let's say someone has Seinfeld at 10 or something and someone else has it at 8. The person who has it at 10 can talk about it, and then the person who has it at 8 should just kind of wait their turn and play coy. I want to have some mystery.
Play coy. I kind of have, I guess, one honorable mention. I added this very late, and this is mostly because although the show was in the 90s, I really didn't watch very much of it in the 90s. I watched more in the 2000s. And it ran through both of those decades for quite a bit. But the only talk show that I have is Late Night with Conan O'Brien, which is my favorite. He's my favorite talk show host. So I put that in there. But yeah, I didn't really watch it in the 90s, so it didn't feel appropriate for me to include it,
Okay, that's fair. I wasn't even on my radar. Yeah, I don't think that's one I watched until high school more.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I watched it in high school and college. And even now, like, it's not like I go back and watch the 90s clips as much as I would watch 2000s, or I mostly just listen to his podcasts. So,
hey, Conan O'Brien can't stop.
He must go, if I recall.
He must go. Jordan, I'm going to let you go first with your number 10. I think we're going to give like the name, probably the number of seasons, and then we're going to highlight like our favorite episode for each one.
Yeah.
Ideally.
This one starts off a little weird for me because it's I didn't write the number of episodes because there are quite a bit, but my first one is a game show. And it's going to be Jeopardy. Okay. This one started in 1964 to present, so it's not really a 90s show, but of all the game shows that I watch, Jeopardy is the best. I will say, my wife and I were talking about this, and we were thinking, like, wasn't Who Wants to Be a Millionaire in this?
Probably like 2000,
it was like
right?
just at the turn of the century there.
Man, and to have Reach, that would have been pretty special.
And that would have beat Jeopardy for me because that was just a cultural moment. But I did.
I mean, Jordan, remember when that guy phoned a friend
and was
to call?
Like, I'm gonna win
$1 million.
Yeah, of course
and everybody
I do.
was like, "That's so arrogant." No, that's not arrogant. That's great TV.
That is good TV. And and you mentioned Reach, but I love how we still made Who Wants to Be a Millionaire talk.
I would rather talk about Reach than Jeopardy. No,
sure.
Of course. But yeah, talk me through. I know we've had a relationship with Jeopardy. You and I, but tell me about yours.
I mean, you and I used to sit down, play with each other, do a simplified scoring system, just tallies and getting them right. I did a similar thing with my wife as well.
Wow, betrayal.
Yeah, I know. You were almost my wife.
That's true. I forgot I was close. Crap.
But yeah, like I said, for my money, the best game show of all time. Just like the most, I really enjoy trivia, so that one is very trivia-like versus something like Wheel of Fortune. Trebek is always was always an interesting character. Also, rest in peace.
Remember we used to watch all those videos of like him kind of like being a little saucy or like.
Yeah, I mean, talking to that many people or going through that many shows, you gotta have your moments. So
you have some misses. I remember one where he was kind of racist, and he said, not that racism's funny, but he said like hurts to miss that one. It was about someone's home country. Just felt like a jab that wasn't necessary.
Shot. So just the most engaging one. I think the competition's good. Another, one of the things you said is like, what's the favorite episode? very hard to tell a favorite episode for this. For me,
season 13, episode 2.
Yeah. Do you remember the question about Thailand?
Right.
No. So I was just thinking of like the different iterations, or maybe like the people on the show, and I always enjoyed Celebrity Jeopardy because they'd have some unique characters on there, and there was always like the Tournament of Champions where you get the best of the best is good stuff too. But I like it all. So
I like it all. It's all good.
it's all
Jeopardy.
What is Jeopardy?
Okay. That's good. Not on my list. Doesn't feel like a 90s show necessarily to me, but I respect your choice.
Like I said, I just try to include one of almost every genre on there.
Okay.
And if I had to pick one that was going to be my favorite in the 90s that was around, that was going to be it. Because, Reach was just a hair too late.
Poor Reg, I mean, you could have included, and maybe you did live with Regis and Catherine.
We'll get there, maybe.
Okay, well, we might get there. Gilman!
I did actually like that show quite a bit when I was younger.
Everybody did. Yeah. It was great.
Stay home from school. You get to watch Reach. Yeah. Okay.
Reach, 9 a.m., I believe. All right, my number 10 is Star Trek: The Next Generation. It aired from 1987 to 1994, 7 seasons, 178 episodes, and it was syndicated.
I didn't know you were a Trekkie.
It's an interesting thing, and this is why it's number 10. I didn't start watching it really until my wife and I met. She liked it and was fond of it, so we started turning on episodes during dinner and such. You're always looking for something, if you want to watch TV during dinner that's not too violent, not too loud, not too challenging. Star Trek TNG kind of meets all those needs. So it's number 10 for me because I've probably seen under 30 episodes. So I just didn't feel like, for me to have a show ranked really high on a list, I need to have seen all the episodes. Sure. So it's number 10 for me. Really like it. Just kind of a fun hangout show. Really good characters. Obviously Picard and Data and the whole crew. I've watched all the movies with the cast, so I feel like I can claim that. But yeah, it's just a good time. It's not necessarily something I would have gone to on my own, but I sort of like the sort of the mission a week thing. There's some longer episodes or 2-part episodes, but it's a good blend of comedy and some good writing and sort of dated special effects at times, but sometimes also impressive. And it's just like a fun snapshot of that time in that early 90s aesthetic. My favorite episode is one called Darmok, and we just kind of happened onto it. And it's an episode where Picard is like transported to this planet, which happens like a lot of episodes. It's pretty common. But the guy on the planet, they can't communicate. The guy on the planet is kind of speaking in this different language, and he uses maybe 5 to 6 phrases over and over again in the episode. And one is Darmok. There's Darmok. There's Shaka when the walls fell. There's
you could be making up things right now.
It sounds like gibberish. It's hilarious. The guy says these things so many times. Shaka when the walls fell. Darmok and Jalad Tanagra. I mean, he says it over and over again, and it's become such like a joke for my wife and I to sort of say these things periodically to one another. That we even, when we moved into this new house, made Darmok the name of our Wi-Fi. So
no wonder you wouldn't let me get on your Wi-Fi last time.
It's pretty serious business. I didn't want you to know. So yeah, number 10 for me, Star Trek TNG, favorite episode, Darmok. Darmok, if you've seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a heck of a good time.
Heck of a good time. All right.
Number 9 for you, Jordan.
That surprised me. I'm gonna go with, and this is another one that my daughter just watched the first 2 episodes of, actually. So I suspect we're gonna get some more of this in my life. But I'm gonna go with Boy Meets World at this spot. So started in 1993, went to 2000. Favorite episode for me. It's been a long time since I've actually watched it. I did watch it a lot more when I was younger. And in general, I would say I enjoyed early seasons with Minkus. I'm not going to say specific episode.
I would have pegged you as a Minkus guy.
We just watched him load up some super soakers and shoot everybody. So
man, Minkus had his day, didn't he?
They were all playing checkers, and he was playing chess.
Yeah,
but yeah,
he always was.
We'll talk about maybe Home Improvement later, maybe not. I don't know. But this feels very much like Home Improvement, but from the kids' perspective, right? Because they're following Corey so much. So I do like that it's like the quintessential coming of age type of sitcom from the kids' perspective, so you can really sit in Corey's shoes. And who doesn't like a little bit of Feeney sass? You know, Feeney, great character on the show. So yeah, I like I said, it's been a long time since I've watched, but I would have to say like this is probably one I spent a decent amount of time with in the 90s.
And we covered it fairly recently.
We did, yeah. And then there was Sean.
Okay. I'm going to neglect to say much more about Boy Meets World. As you should. Okay. So my number 9, and I think these early ones are probably going to surprise you. So when I think back to my television watching as a kid in the 90s growing up, I was born in 1990, so grew up on certain shows. And there was one show that I gravitated to early on. It's not necessarily one I would tune into now per se, but I'd say around 94, 95, this was the show for me. It was a huge thing in my life, and that is the show Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Oh, wonderful show.
That's on the Fox network, ran from 93 to 95. 3 seasons, 145 episodes, Jordan. That's a lot of episodes over 3 seasons.
A lot of fighting, you know, what were they, Putty? What was their name? Putty? The evil Putty? I don't know. Whatever. Anyway.
Well, there's Zordon, obviously.
Naturally.
A legend. Love Zordon. Love to look at Zordon behind his, kind of like a Wizard of Oz thing almost. Yeah, what
was the little robot who goes I all the time?
That's a really good question. I haven't watched it since 1993.
I was telling my kids about this show recently, so maybe I'll have to look it up.
It was huge. It was just like the perfect blend of sort of, they're a little bit older than you. It's sort of superhero-ish. They're getting into fights. There's some cool action sequences, and they're winning at the end of every day. I remember gravitating towards Tommy, who I believe was the White Ranger.
Green and White Ranger, me as well.
Green and White. Yeah. Okay, all right. I mean, he was the cool one. He had a ponytail, so it's kind of why I'm growing out my hair now, so I can be like Tommy. But it was a really, really meaningful show, and probably my first true television love. I couldn't pick a favorite episode for this because I couldn't remember any of them, and they're all kind of the same.
It would be the first episode where the Green Ranger turns into the White Ranger. Like, I don't know what episode that is, but I'm sure everyone got jazzed on that one, so...
I chose the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, which I think I've said this before.
With Ivan
Ooze? The first movie I saw in theaters with my dad.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Yeah, I remember he didn't tell me we were going. He said, put your shoes on, we got to head out. And then in the car, he told me we were going, and it was awesome. Ooh. I think it's kind of actually like a decent movie. The guy playing Ivan Ooze is way overqualified. Mm-hmm. It's kind of scary, and the special effects are solid. I remember thinking it was pretty good, and I bet it still is. But I know that the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers have sort of continued over time, and they even made a movie within the last probably 5 years for Netflix. But I think there's still kind of an interest in there. But super meaningful show for me, and my number 9.
A good one on the list. I think Alpha 5 is what I just saw on Google as far as the name of that character.
Okay.
Yeah, there were quite a few that didn't make my list that were pretty close, and I think this would be one of them. Sabrina the Teenage Witch is probably on there too. I watched a lot of Sabrina. Let's see. My next one, am I on 8? I don't remember what number we're on now.
You're either on 9 or 8. So
I think I'm on 8.
Okay.
This starts a run, I think, for me of like, why was I watching these shows at my age? And the first one for me is Spin City.
I knew that would be on your list.
Yeah. So this ran from 1996 to 2002. Just like a really funny, solid cast, I felt like. An interesting cast of characters. You had Michael J. Fox, of course, running the show, and having to leave early with his Parkinson's diagnosis. Yep. But Richard Kind was always really good as like a buffoon. You had Barry Bostwick as the mayor, who always made you laugh because he was just kind of a dummy running everything. But yeah, I thought it was interesting throughout that show as they would like, obviously with Fox having to step back, they would add new characters like Charlie Sheen or Heather Locklear, and I felt like they did a good job keeping interest in the show regardless. Another show that I haven't watched in forever. So it would be interesting to go back and like view that and see like what episodes really stood out or whatever. But I do remember, obviously as Michael J. Fox was leaving the show, they did like a really emotional goodbye. So I'm sure that would be up there on the list.
I remember that being like peak television promos.
Yeah.
Like that was like all over the promos. Yeah, Spin City is a good show, and like you said, really loaded cast. I mean, there's Connie Britton, Jennifer Esposito. I can't ever think of this guy's name, but he's still working. He's in Succession. He was in Ferris Bueller.
Alan Ruck.
Alan Ruck, yeah, he's great. So it was a really loaded cast and delivered on the laughs. And I agree with you that even with the Sheen and Heather Locklear transition, quality stayed pretty high. But yeah, not one I've checked in on in a while. But
it's not like I don't. Maybe it's available on streaming. But it's not one I ever hear anyone talk about. Like Seinfeld or something.
No, so, I would agree.
Yeah,
it was a good one for sure. But all right, I will transition into my number 8, and we've talked about this one on the show before in some capacity. But my number 8 is the Drew Carey Show. Mm-hmm. It was on ABC, ran from 1995 to 2004. It's a lot longer than I would have thought. 9 seasons, 233 episodes. I'm going to say I probably watched the first couple seasons. This was a show that was kind of big in my household for whatever reason. I think I was watching it a lot younger than I should have because it's sort of adult, or at least more so than Home Improvement was. Seinfeld was adult in a different way, a little like over my head at the time. Yeah. But the Drew Carey Show was outwardly pretty crass, but I guess that's what made me love it.
Explains a lot.
Yeah, I just another really good like cast of characters. All 4 of those main leads: Ryan Stiles, Diedrich Baker, the woman whose name's escaping me. Super funny, lots of good laughs. I always found Drew Carey to be a pretty likable guy. My episode highlight is an episode that I still sometimes I still look up the ending on YouTube, probably once every couple of months, and it's one of the major TV moments of my life as a child, because I remember watching this episode with my dad and thinking it was so funny and like so unbelievable, and I was so excited about it that I couldn't fall asleep afterwards.
Wow.
And I was like probably 8 years old. The name of the episode is The Dog and Pony Show, season 3, episode 8. And essentially what happens is they're forced to they organize like a strip tease to save the bar, and they need to collect money, but it's shut down by like local zoning restrictions. So they, at the very end of the episode, they perform the striptease at the courtroom in front of the judge, who's Stephen Tobolowsky. And it ends with all of them kind of ripping their pants off and the microphones cover their butts.
Oh, yeah.
And like, gosh, man, I don't know if TV ever got better than that. I'll be honest with you.
It's all been downhill from there.
So good.
Yeah,
so good.
I feel like the theme song, it will live in my head forever too. Just like running through the office and throwing everything around. And
yeah, they had 2 really good openings. There's Cleveland Rocks, and then they did 5 O'Clock World.
Yeah.
Also, and that was also really good. So yeah, it was. They did some good things on that show. I think it kind of lost its way later on, and I definitely stopped watching it at a certain point. But yeah, there's definitely some highs in those early episodes.
Yeah, great show.
Yeah.
I'm gonna transition to mine that like almost breaks your rules.
Okay.
Just like Drew Carey did, and that episode did. So
it broke all the rules.
That's what the critics said. In the right way. Yeah. I'm gonna go with Whose Line Is It Anyway? Which technically started in 1998 for season 1.
Right.
1999 was season 2, and it had like 13 episodes before it got into 2000. So it was like a season and a half or so.
Yeah.
So
that's fine.
You're gonna
rules are meant to be broken, and you have said that to me every day we've been friends.
And we've done a lot of bad things.
Yes, we have.
So this is a show that I watched pretty much like for a phase of my life every night before I went to bed when it was like syndicated. It was always on Freeform or something.
I'm surprised you don't have more respect for my improv career since you're such an improv fan.
Are you kidding me? I'm the only one who supported you.
Right up there for sure.
Right up there. So yeah, I mean, it was very different from a lot of shows that I had experienced at the time. For sure. And Wayne Brady was a revelation. We talked about Ryan Stiles already, and Colin Mockery was also quite good. So those 3 consistently made me laugh over and over and over again. Some of the games they played were better than others, like Scenes from a Hat. I like the one they did where they were like a news crew and things like that. But I remember genuinely like just laughing out loud all the time watching that show. In a way that I didn't with like the blue collar comedy guys, which were also very popular when we were younger.
Yeah. I always thought you were kind of a Ron White fan.
They called me tater salad.
They did.
So yeah, I mean, it was just a very unique show. Made me laugh a lot. Again, like I'm not gonna say like this episode was my favorite, but I will say the episode that I think was just another level because the main characters on the show like almost couldn't handle this guy when he was on there.
Yeah,
was the Robin Williams episode. So they had Robin Williams come on. And he was there for the whole episode. Sometimes they bring him in for like one game or whatever. But he was there the whole episode, and he was just peak Robin Williams. Like his mind was working 100 miles an hour, and you could tell that like the people on stage were like barely able to contain themselves because he was on a different level. So
that's a pretty big get, and also shows how popular the show was at the time.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
'Cause that was before TV in those days wasn't. It was seen as sort of a lesser medium.
It wasn't the big screen.
Yeah.
So whose line?
That's cool. Yeah. Definitely brought improv to like a larger audience. I'm certain that my family and I would not have really been familiar with improv as a form before then.
Agreed.
I remember some big moments. I remember liking Colin Mockery a lot when I was young.
Sure.
But yeah, lots of big laughs and. As an improviser myself, I can't help but respect the greats.
Yeah, it was kind of inspirational.
I told you I saw the Who's Live Is It Anyway tour a couple years ago, right?
I saw they were coming to Michigan not that long ago.
They're still doing it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
They've been touring for like 3 years. It was funny. Yeah, it was good.
I'm sure it was. It was tough when I saw the ad because it did not have Wayne Brady in it. So it's like...
No, it's like Styles...
Colin.
He wasn't
even in it. Well, then you're in trouble.
Greg Proops, Props, et cetera, et cetera. Doesn't matter. But it was good. It was funny. All right. My number 7, Jordan. Some people take it day by day. Others go step by step. It aired on ABC, later CBS from 1991 to 1998. 7 seasons, 160 episodes. I really like Step by Step growing up. It's not a show that I've checked in on since I was probably 8. I don't think it's kind of like you said earlier with Spin City. I don't think it's a show that gets a lot of discussion anymore. I don't know that there's a lot of meaningful step-by-step conversations. I'd like there to be more.
This is what we're going to go into next, step by step. We got to start it.
I really like Step by Step. My favorite character was Cody, who was sort of like... There was a lot of roles in the 90s where it was like adult. He's an adult, but he's basically a kid.
Sure.
And he kind of functions as a kid. He lives in like a van over the garage, and he just kind of comes in and heart of gold, but maybe sort of simple-minded. I was a big Cody fan. Suzanne Summers, kind of an early crush for me. Ooh. I'll be honest.
Just like the Pink Ranger. We didn't talk about the Pink Ranger, but
Pink Ranger, big crush. I think my wife asked the other day.
She said, "Me or Pink Ranger?"
No, but it was like early crush, and I did say the Pink Ranger. Was right up there. Yeah. Kimberly, I believe her name was.
Sure.
But Suzanne Summers, another early crush for me. I mean, I was like 5. She was like 45. But hey.
Everyone told you no, but
yeah, whatever. But no, lots of good laughs on that one. I don't remember a lot. It was almost like a Brady Bunch sort of situation. Good cast of characters. In terms of episode highlight, I can remember one specific part of an episode, so it took me a while to find it, but I did. It's called Locket Man, Season 6, Episode 9, and JT, who's sort of the punky son, signs up for a charity boxing match to impress a girl, and Cody steps in and trains him, and there's sort of a Rocky-style montage, and as a big Rocky fan at the time, that was something I really enjoyed, and I thought they did a good job with it. So that was enough to make it my favorite episode looking back, because it's the only scene that I really remembered.
It's tough. I had that same issue for some of these. I was like, I haven't watched this in 20 years or whatever. So I
was just surprised I could find the episode, because it took some digging. I did a lot of searching, but I guess it is Locket Man for whatever reason. But Step by Step, good laughs, good show. I feel like there's probably got to be a cast hosted companion podcast at this time, by this point, but I can't.
Maybe. I mean, there weren't enough Home Improvement ones, so we had to come in and do that. So.
Well, we were on the show. That's why we did it.
On the show, okay.
You played. You were the waiter, and I was Sparky.
Sparky. All right.
You're number 6, Jordan.
Okay, so on my list next is South Park, which you mentioned earlier.
I figured this would be on yours.
This is one where it's like, I love my parents. I wonder some of the decisions they made. Because it was very much a rule in my house where you could not watch The Simpsons. But I
remember that.
I somehow could watch South Park.
Didn't your mom also not like wrestling to be on?
Oh, yes. I had to, like, at night, if I had wrestling on, I had to have, like, a different channel on the previous button on the TV, if you guys remember a previous button. Of course. And so it was usually, like, Tom and Jerry on one channel and wrestling on the other.
Well, that previous button was pretty big as a kid because it could get you out of a sticky situation. It sure could.
Fast. It was very important. So,
but yeah, South Park, bold choice.
Bold choice.
Or bold allowance by your parents.
Bold allowance. So yeah. Anyway, I did watch quite a bit of this. I also remember there was like a video game that I played in like 3rd grade or something, which is insane to me. But yeah, you know, if I'm thinking of like the different adult cartoons that were available at the time, I didn't really watch a lot of Simpsons, but it did fit a lot more of my humor of like, it's pretty absurd, which is a little bit like I mentioned Conan.
Just like you.
It's the kind of humor I like, which is why I like Conan so much. But yeah, it, you know, obviously has stood the test of time somehow. I think it's still going.
Yeah, kind of crazy. Just end it.
I'm sure if I went back and watched the episodes, they wouldn't be nearly as funny to me. I remember the movie Bigger, Longer, and Uncut being an important part of my childhood.
What a title.
What a title. And now if I had to pick an episode, there's a lot of them that I liked. But I'm thinking of the one that was titled Aspen, where they went to the mountains. This one also had a montage, so you'd probably like it.
I love montages.
But they were learning to ski, and it was kind of like an 80s movie where like the kids had a rival who was like a college kid, and he was very much like trying to take away the girl, and the kids were like, we're just 8-year-olds learning to ski or whatever. Yeah. So it was pretty funny. But yeah, South Park makes my list. Pretty.
Yeah, South Park. I have seen episodes. I watched it more in high school, so that would have been like 2005, 2008. Always felt like something other people liked more than me. But I admit that it is funny. But I don't think I've seen much of the '90s output, so I just didn't feel like I could include it.
I think I probably watched it more in the 2000s too, but I definitely did see some in the '90s. So.
Yeah. Still, man, these cartoon shows, Simpsons, South Park, still going to some audience, I guess.
Crazy.
Kind of crazy. All right, my number 6, Jordan. I want to believe that number 6 is the X-Files for me. Yeah. Fox aired on 1993 to 2002, then 2016, then 2018. 11 seasons, 218 episodes. So the X-Files is not something that I watched in the 90s. I probably first started watching it maybe 10 years ago. It's another one where I haven't seen all of the episodes. There's a lot of episodes, but I've seen probably the first 4 seasons and bits and pieces later on. Definitely a really fun show. Something I wish I would have engaged with more when it was on, because I think I would have gotten a kick out of it. But yeah, I really like I love Duchovny and Gillian Anderson. Gillian Anderson? We'll say
Miss
Gillian
Anderson.
Yeah, great chemistry. I've seen the movie, and just it's all, it feels like an heir apparent to the Twilight Zone in some ways, and obviously we both like that, along with the kind of cool '90s vibe. I like the mythology episodes, but I actually probably prefer the Monster of the Week episodes because they're a little scarier, and yeah, I feel like they go a little bit harder. Mythology episodes can be a little duller for me, but they kind of fall into the two camps. My favorite episode, unfortunately, I'm going to have a hard time pronouncing it. It's Die Hand, Die Verletzit. Someone will laugh at that. Probably German. Season 2, episode 14. And this is one where Scully and Mulder investigate a ritualistic murder in a small town in New Hampshire. Teenagers murdered. And they discover that like several high school faculty members are Satanists who have sort of grown complacent. Frogs fall from the sky, water flows backwards. And there's like this really scary substitute teacher named Mrs. Paddock who is sort of in charge of the whole thing. It's really spooky. It's really scary. And this kind of has like a really good button at the end. And I watched it probably 3 or 4 years ago, and it was quite scary. You're
still
for a
having
television
nightmares.
show. I'm changing my bed sheets every night. Frankly,
your poor
it's
wife.
really scary. But
Yeah,
no,
I
have to do it myself.
That's one I've never watched, and I probably would enjoy.
I think you would. Yeah, it's a little daunting because there's so many episodes,
Sure.
but sometimes I'll just like look up the best episodes and kind of pop in on those and have fun. But yeah, a lot of high highs in the show, and it's hard to beat those leads. It's really, really good stuff, and it's just a slick, cool show. So
Very cool. I'm gonna go with something that's completely the opposite end of the spectrum. Not so spooky.
Okay. So like the B Files. So that'd be the opposite end of the alphabet. Okay.
Okay.
Eat your heart out. Whose line?
Oh boy.
All right, go ahead.
So this is one that somehow is still around. Although I heard they retired the main character. But I watched this every single morning, basically, while I was eating cereal before I went to school. And it was a big part of my childhood, and now is a big part of my kids' childhood, and that's Pokemon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So this started in 1997, still going in one way or another, and the games are as popular as ever. But, I was thinking of like all the kids' cartoon stuff that I watched and that I've probably seen. I would say it probably holds up the best. Like, it's not too crazy and too loony. And then I've watched some of the stuff I've seen some of the stuff my son is watching, and it's just crap. So I would say Pokemon is not crap. I can definitively say that. Who's That Pokemon was always a big thing in commercial break. I'm sure you and I can both do the Poke Rap front and back.
I'm sure we could.
We shouldn't,
but
though.
Should we?
No, we shouldn't. But yeah, I mean, this is something. I still have all my games from Game Boy, so it was just kind of a fixture in my childhood, and probably my favorite cartoon show of all time, and slightly different from South Park as a cartoon show, I guess.
Yeah, opposite ends of the spectrum for sure.
They all started the same year, though. Believe it or not.
Not a lot of crossover between you and I in this list.
We were different.
Interesting.
We didn't meet each other really till middle school, so
yeah, I couldn't influence you quite yet.
Yeah.
I did watch the show. I don't have the fond memories necessarily, but I remember. Did you have an N64?
I do. I have it still.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember Pokemon Stadium?
My kids love
Isn't
that game.
That's like the weirdest. That's such a strange like concept for a game.
It's just a lot of games in one, essentially. Is that what you're saying?
Or wait, no. I'm thinking Pokemon Snap.
Oh,
Sorry.
I have that too.
Pokemon Snap is a weird you just
they remade that for Switch, so it obviously worked.
That's such like a that's how you know something's popular. You can make a game where the whole thing is like, how good of pictures can you take of the character?
It inspired some children to become photographers, maybe. Yeah, Pokemon Stadium still a game we play. We play the mini games.
Yeah. Snap was so funny.
And when my nephews and niece come over, they want to play it still. So that's a good one. But nice. I got to pick a favorite episode. It's tough.
Probably the one where they catch the Pokemon at the end.
That doesn't happen in all of them, believe it or not.
Okay,
I mean, there's a lot of like gym battles where it's like, oh man, we're working our way up to this sweet gym battle, and sometimes they fizzle and sometimes they don't. Like all of a sudden, Pikachu wins a battle because there's water on the Pokemon that he should never defeat. It's weird things like that. But there were some emotional ones too that I remember where Ash says goodbye to his Butterfree.
That was tough. That was a big moment.
It happened pretty fast in the run.
Well, you have to keep things moving.
they sure did. There's also Charmander gets abandoned at one point. So there's some heavy episodes, and I think there was one where they toyed with like Pikachu. Like Pikachu would be happier with the other Pikachus, and Ash tries to leave, and it doesn't work out. But yeah, that would be terrible. So anyway, another one where like that was probably one of the first movies I saw was Pokemon in theaters.
Oh yeah, I think I did see it in theaters as well.
So, but yeah, Pokemon. That's looks like my fifth one.
All right, number 5 for me is a show that I watched probably around 2015, 2016. The Larry Sanders Show is an HBO show. It ran from 92 to 98. 6 seasons, 90 episodes. And it's Gary Shandling stars as Larry Sanders, and he's basically like a Letterman, Leno type running a late night show. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun. It's super funny and just a lot of really, really good cameos, like people playing themselves. Kind of an early example of that, probably. So you have like, oh gosh, Jim Carrey's on it, Tim Allen's on it, Seinfeld, all these guys. Rip Torn was the producer, and he played a really good role. Yeah, there's a lot of really good characters, good writers, super funny showbiz show. My favorite episode is actually the season finale. It really ends on a high note. It's Larry's sort of doing his final show, and there's a lot of tensions behind the scenes, and they want to have like big guests and a lot of good David Duchovny cameos. He plays a really funny role throughout the series where he's kind of trying to seduce Larry, which is interesting. But yeah, it's an emotional episode. They had good music. Like there's good music on the show. I think we've both always been kind of interested in the late night mechanism and sort of what makes it run, and this show is a good example of that. Yeah, just a really
I
fun
feel like
show.
that's one I always hear people talk about that is like under the radar, but always was awesome. And
I mean, I was HBO in 1992 was like you might as well be like going to space. Like that wasn't something I had access to. It was really felt very far away. So. Yeah, it wasn't something that I could have watched at that point, but yeah, it's streaming now, and anybody who likes 90s comedies, I would really encourage them to check it out because yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. I guess with Pokemon, these last 4 are probably the shows that I have spent the most time watching in all of my life, except for 2 others that I can think of. So
I would agree with mine as well.
Yeah. So for me, number 4. It's what our podcast was based on originally.
Wow.
Home Improvement. I've mentioned that I'm rewatching it again. I don't know how many times this is. Maybe the 5th time. I don't know. Started in 1991, ran to 1999. Yeah, it's fun to be able to watch it again and not have to criticize it or think about it too much because you can just kind of enjoy it. But yeah, probably the best combination of family-friendly and funny sitcoms.
Yeah.
Maybe ever for
Let's just say it, ever.
So yeah, I mean, we've talked about this through 200 some episodes about kind of the heart.
We're almost at 300 episodes loosely based on the show. I don't think you have to justify it, Jordan.
I'm not going to spend too much time, and
we've dedicated our lives to it.
Strange thing we've done, honestly, in some ways. Yeah. But yeah, a great show. Obviously, we've done a lot to talk about it. Favorite episode. I'm sure if we went back and listened to like our series finale or something, I would have a different choice. But this is top of mind for me.
Okay.
Because we just watched it not too long ago. But and it's one that always comes to mind when I think about the show. This is one of the first episodes that comes to mind, and that's Wild.
Engine and a haircut, 2 fights.
No.
Okay.
Wild Kingdom, with the snake coming out of the wall. And
I don't even think you would have had that in your top 10 when the show ended.
But it's here again.
There you go. That's the power of Home Improvement.
Recency bias, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a good daughter. So
fun.
Yeah.
It is a good show. My sister and her family, like they watch it now too. I think it is one that you can kind of watch with kids. So
that's nice.
Once Henry gets older. But I'm going to make him listen to the episodes afterwards. So.
Well, I think the podcast you probably have to wait a few years to listen to.
It is a little.
You were cursing quite a bit.
I was a naughty boy back then. I've really settled down.
Naughty boy.
All right, my number 4 is a little show. I would use it to describe you and I, Jordan. Friends.
Oh, Friends. That's great.
Ran on NBC from 1994 to 2004. 10 seasons, 236 episodes. Friends was not a show that I watched a ton while it was on. I remember watching the finale live because it was such a big moment, but definitely one for me that like access on Netflix has made binging it really easy. So at this point I have seen it all. it's a really funny show with great characters and really sublime actors. Obviously, a lot of people got their start on that show. I was always fond of Chandler's, Matthew Perry's Chandler.
Yep.
But there's so many good episodes, and really, like, it's hard to watch an episode of Friends and not feel like pretty. I mean, there's some Ross and Rachel ones that are a little bit of a bummer, but you're always laughing, you're always having a good time. They did a lot of fun, like, celebrity cameos as the show went on, and I think they were getting some big people, Julia Roberts and Sean Penn and so on, and I always thought that was kind of cool. I suspect it's one that you're going to talk about later, so I'm going to leave you a little bit of room to do so.
My lips are sealed.
My favorite episode, I chose the one after the Super Bowl, which is a 2-part episode. You got Marcel the Monkey, you got Dr. Drake Ramore and Brooke Shields, and you got my guy Jean-Claude Van Damme making a cameo.
Very good
Jean-Claude
Van Damme appearance.
It's really good, but there's a lot of good episodes. The Thanksgiving episodes, really fun where they're playing football.
So many.
I love Bamboozled. That's right up there where they play that game. But again, I'll leave you a little bit of room. Friends, great show.
Very good show. We'll talk about it later, maybe. I'm gonna go to my number 3, top 3. These are the cream of the crop. One you refused to put on your list. Saturday Night Live.
Couldn't do it. Yeah. But I respect that you did.
Sure. 1975 to present. Obviously, iconic show, around 50 years. Iconic time for the show and one of its best decades, because I was growing up in it. So, obviously, that's why.
Yep.
But, yeah, I mean, if you think of the cast of characters going on during that time, you've got Will Ferrell and Chris Farley and Molly Shannon, Phil Hartman, Mike Myers. Like, you just go on forever with those
Spade,
people.
Dana,
yep.
etc.
Yep. So, not a lot you need to say there, but I just watched it a ton. I didn't enjoy the music as much as a kid.
Yeah, no.
It wasn't for me.
Well, you hate music still.
I don't even really know what music is, to be honest.
It's hard for you to, like, even as a concept. It's always been hard to grasp. I've tried.
It's very hard. But, I don't feel like I need to say a lot about SNL.
No, it kind of speaks for itself. Definitely 90s were when I was watching it as well. For me, it's beyond that. But 90s were a good era. And, a lot of those guys from the 90s, guys and girls, they all kind of hit in different ways and had pretty successful film careers and television careers outside. I just read the book Lorne, which was written by Susan Morrison, which is a biography of his life, and it touched upon the whole thing, and it was a wonderful book. It was one of those books where I just didn't want it to end. Please keep going. It talked a lot about the 90s and stuff, and that was a great cast. I think at the time it wasn't seen as being a tremendous success.
No,
but it's one of those things where in hindsight there's so many good sketches and just good times. So
I wrote down a couple of skits that I enjoyed a lot. I think Cowbell always sticks with me.
Sure.
Iconic. Will Ferrell. And then one that was also, like, even before I think I saw these live, I don't remember if it was my brother or somebody had burned a CD that was full of, like, comedy things. Okay. And it was a random set of comedy, like, tracks. So some was SNL skits, some was, like, Seinfeld bits, some was, like, whatever, right? And one that was always on there was the Celebrity Jeopardy skits. And I always enjoyed that, and then that kind of called back to our Jeopardy affinity from before.
I mean, those are great. Those are those are all timers, especially Turd Ferguson and such.
Turd Ferguson.
I even like Tobey Maguire doing Keanu Reeves. I mean, that's pretty good.
That is pretty good. You're right.
I know kung fu.
No, you don't. All right,
good stuff.
On to you.
Okay, so for me, it's hard to know what to do. I'm almost wondering right now if my list, if things should be kind of adjusted and moved, but
a living list.
I'm going to do. I have a tie for third place.
Whoa.
And one of them, Jordan, is it's the namesake of the podcast. It's a television show, Home Improvement. I don't know that I need to say a lot about Home Improvement. There's 280 hours of us talking about it. You said it earlier. Great television show, great for families, good laughs. We grew up with it. We lived in Michigan. If you lived in Michigan during the 90s, it was an integral part of your life. And there was very few moments were as big and probably ultimately as disappointing as that finale live. But what a ride it was.
What a ride.
And I honestly think in some ways it probably informed the person I became.
Whoa.
Yeah, I think so. I think in some ways it did.
You do love the Lions just because of that show.
Yeah. That's probably the way it did. And every time the Lions recover a fumble, I have to say, the Lions just recovered a fumble. So that's huge. Tied for number 3, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was a huge show for me. When I was growing up in the 90s, I liked it more than Home Improvement, almost for certain. Really funny, great cast of characters. Obviously, you've got Will, you've got Carlton, Jeffrey. My favorite character was Uncle Phil. I mean, he passed away too soon, but perhaps the greatest television dad and uncle, just such a warm character, a beloved presence. And Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was one of those shows that I kind of, at the time, thought that I was the only one watching. I didn't really know that it was popular until years later, and it's like, oh, everybody likes it. Will Smith is a big star. But I was like, oh man, this is really good. But yeah, definitely, there are episodes where you can see that Will Smith's he's a tremendous talent and he's going to be huge. I'd be lying if I said that like the slap stuff didn't sort of diminish it a little bit in my eyes, just because it's so tied to him, and the slap thing was just so ridiculous. So I think maybe without that, it's probably number 2, honestly, which is silly, but it's just a feeling I have. It got slapped
down the list.
It was a G.I. Jane joke, Jordan. My favorite episode, Bank Shot. Will gets hustled playing pool with Jeffrey. He gets hustled playing pool at a pool hall. He really goes in deep, and he has to call on Uncle Phil, who is secretly a really great pool player. And he names his pool stick Lucille. And at one point he says, "Jeffrey, bring out Lucille." Great episode. Uncle Phil wins back all the money. He kind of returns the hustle on the guys doing it, and it's just a really great episode of television. And one that I think would make me laugh to this day.
I always really enjoyed Jeffrey's character on that show. I didn't watch it as much as you, but I do remember enjoying it. I just don't think it was in my rotation. So perhaps I would have the same fondness.
Ran from 1996, 6 seasons, 148 episodes. But great one. What's your number 2, Jordan?
Big Willie style. All right, my number 2... I didn't actually watch this live. I caught it on the reruns, but one of the iconic 90s shows, Seinfeld. I suspect you'll mention this in a minute. 89 to 98. Again, like, what else can we say? But, like, it just was a different type of sitcom. You mentioned, like, above your head. If I was watching it in the 90s, I would have not gotten it in a way that I understood what South Park was doing, and they were not going over your head.
But still with Seinfeld, I think with Kramer in particular, that does appeal to a younger audience. Or like you can kind of understand that physical humor and the physicality of that. So I think it works a little bit for generations.
It is a bit more like I've mentioned this before, but it's a bit more absurd than some of the other like comedic sitcoms as well. But just so many funny episodes and moments, and it just like I said, I think my first exposure to anything Seinfeld was that comedy CD that I had. So I didn't actually watch the show for a long time. I just heard his skits, and then you would kind of see it all play out in the show. But yeah, just incredibly funny. Loved all the characters. If I had to pick a favorite, I don't know. I think I'd pick George. He's just a crazy man. Yeah. But yeah, even the side characters, right? Like George's parents are hilarious. Newman,
the sayings, So just, what's your favorite episode?
I struggled with this one, but I ended up going with the Chinese restaurant.
It just kind of an early one.
It just feels like
it's quintessential.
Yeah, it's what the show is about. Like they're not actually doing anything. They're in a waiting room of a restaurant, but it's hilarious and a good time. And yeah, it's my number 2.
Yeah, if you want to talk about like a show that is about nothing, like that's a good encapsulation of a show that's about nothing. Yeah, we'll probably talk about Seinfeld in a second, but it is a show where like you have the early seasons where it's a little bit slower, a little more methodical, under the radar, and then by the end it gets really, really goofy. And I think both kind of work. Yeah. So I think that's part of its power. But I'm not ready to talk about that yet because I need to talk about my number 2 television show of the 90s. Kind of to my surprise when I did the ranking, it's Boy Meets World, Jordan.
Yeah, okay.
ABC ran from 93 to 2007 seasons, 158 episodes. We covered this on the show pretty recently, but I was watching Boy Meets World episodes kind of as they came out. It kind of also fits the bill of what I just said about Seinfeld, where the early episodes, Corey's young, you got Minkus, you got Eric is kind of popular, and the show is just kind of a different thing. And then the show grows alongside with them and is still pretty effective as they go into college and things get a little bit more serious. Maybe it becomes a little bit of a bummer later on, but good finale. Lots of good jokes. I just feels very quintessential 90s. I loved William Daniels as Feeney. Actually, Corey is probably one of the weaker characters, and he's the star of the show. But it's sort of a potpourri. There's a lot of good characters, and they kind of work together. Mm-hmm. There's Sean, Topanga. Really liked Eric. Just lots of good laughs. I like the era where they move into the apartment, and there's Matthew Lawrence. It just had different iterations, and they all kind of worked for me. My favorite episode is the one we covered on the show a couple months ago. Well, longer than that at this point. And then there was Sean, the Halloween episode. We have a whole episode on that, so go listen to that. I don't need to get into it, but really solid parody of the Scream franchise. And I think I said in that episode that it was one of my favorite TV episodes of all time. So when that's sort of in the mix, it's got to be high on my list, but love Boy Meets World.
Boy Meets World on both of our lists.
Well, Jordan, I know what your number 1 show is going to be, but why don't you tell everybody else?
It's Friends. You already talked about it a little bit, but this is one, you already mentioned 94 to 2004. I think I maybe started a year or two late, but then after that I was watching in real time and was I watched it so much that I don't know if I could watch it anymore while it was going on. Like I watched constantly, I watched the reruns. I knew every line, every episode, every word. It was just something that I loved so much. And I think for me, it had like the perfect balance because I'm a bit more of a softie than you are. The perfect balance of if only the listeners could see the look on your face of like comedy, but then also some romance, all the relationships and stuff going on there. So enjoyed that. I like you, Chandler was the one I enjoyed the most, but I did like all of them.
Chandler is good if you're young and you're kind of a funny guy. I do think as I have gotten older, a little more annoying, but
maybe I don't know. Like I said, I probably haven't seen an episode in, I don't know.
Probably good to keep it that
12
way. 12
years.
If it's your number,
I remember it so fondly, but it was constantly on. I'm sure if like there was a counter, how Spotify has its like year-end wrap-up, if there was one for my life, I'm sure that is up there at the top.
We'll get there. AI, am I right?
Let's see. If I had to pick a favorite episode, you mentioned one that I really enjoyed and watched quite a bit. Was that Super Bowl one? I also really enjoyed another one that had a big star with Bruce Willis, and that's the one where Paul's the man. He gets in front of the mirror. This is when Bruce Willis is dating Rachel, and Ross is dating Bruce Willis's daughter as his professor, and they kind of like go on a trip kind of, and he's like Ross is hiding under the bed, and Bruce Willis like goes into the mirror and is like pumping himself up for Rachel, and he like is saying that he's a love machine, and he does this little dance, and I performed that dance not so long ago because my wife did not know this part of the show, and I was like, this is still...
You've always had a little Bruce Willis in you.
Oh, naturally. Yeah, but that's still in my head all the time whenever that comes up. But yeah, I enjoyed that episode. But it's impossible. It's like picking your favorite child. There's just so many I love.
Well, you told me your favorite child was the younger one pretty recently, so I guess it's not impossible.
Not true if my daughter's somehow listening to this episode.
No, yeah, in 50 years. Yeah, Friends. I used to read that people would sort of say like, well, Friends is derivative of Seinfeld. Like they're so similar. I don't think they're really alike.
I think they couldn't be more different, honestly.
Other than the setting and like the era, like I never saw like a solid comparison point at all. And I think Seinfeld people would kind of be like, well, Friends copied Seinfeld. It's like I never got that.
Yeah, that's crazy. I am excited to hear your number one.
Yeah, it's going to be to the great shock of you and maybe listeners. My number one show of all time is Seinfeld. I said Home Improvement impacted the person I am today. Seinfeld really did. I remember my first episode was The Bubble Boy, and I watched it with my dad, and my dad was laughing so hard that I felt like he was going to choke on his popcorn. I mean, there's so many good episodes, and it's a show that I like so much that it's sort of hard to talk about because it feels like whatever you say won't be quite enough. You won't be effusive enough, or it won't be impactful enough. But wonderful show, great writing. Obviously, you've got Larry David and Jerry behind the scenes. Didn't know who Larry was at the time, but obviously now he's an icon. But so many great episodes, great lines, great characters, great moments, and really a sustained run of excellence from 89 to 98. 9 seasons, 180 episodes. I think the excellence kind of ends at the finale, unfortunately. I wish that I had like a contrarian opinion that the finale was actually good. I don't think it is. But
hard to live up to that sometimes, you know?
Curb did a good job kind of remedying that in its finale, which I thought was kind of a nice full circle moment if people have watched that. But my favorite character when I was young was Kramer because he's more slapstick, but I'm a George guy through and through as an adult. And as such, my favorite episode is the opposite, where George is kind of frustrated by his failures. So he decides if everything he does in life is wrong, the opposite would have to be right. So he does the opposite and it works. He gets a job with the Yankees. He's getting women. And it's just, it's just a really, really sublime episode. It's great, great, great television. And I think a good encapsulation of what the show is. And honestly, it's a mindset and an ideal that I've tried throughout my life when things weren't necessarily going my way. I think, well, if I try the opposite, maybe they'll go better. And it's made me the great American success story that I am today.
Hosting the Homan podcast for episode 300.
That's our 10 episodes. Jordan, why don't you count down yours 10 to 1?
All right. So I kind of led off with the honorable mention of Late Night with Conan O'Brien. Then I had Jeopardy, Boy Meets World, Spin City, Whose Line Is It Anyway, South Park, Pokemon, Home Improvement, Saturday Night Live, Seinfeld, and Friends.
So do we have 3 in common is all?
Friends, Seinfeld, Home Improvement, Boy Meets World.
Okay, 4. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. My 10, Star Trek The Next Generation, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, The Drew Carey Show, Step by Step. I'll do number 6, The X-Files. 5, The Larry Sanders Show. 4, Friends. 3, we have a tie between The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Home Improvement. 2, Boy Meets World. And 1, The Show About Nothing, Seinfeld. Listeners, sound off in the comments with your top 10.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Smash subscribe and download your 10 favorite episodes. I'm sure that everybody will agree with what we said because these are the definitive lists. So
yeah, you couldn't possibly have a show outside of these lists, right?
No, and if you don't agree with us, just know that you're dead wrong. All right.
Would like to hear in the comments on Twitter, X, whatever it's called, if there's a show that you think we missed or that you just really loved. I suspect everyone's gonna tweet in "Just Shoot Me," but we'll see.
Just Pod Me? That's a good title for a podcast if we ever wanted to do that.
Pod Shoot
Jordan,
Me.
I hear the microwave going in the background.
It's dinner time, baby.
So that's how I know we got to wrap this up. So I had fun doing this. I think it worked out well. But I always think the episodes work out well. So we'll leave
that's
it to
because
listeners.
you're in charge of them, Adam.
Boss man, look at me, I'm the captain now. Next episode, I've already decided what we're going to do, and I haven't told you. It's going to be our first ever full mailbag episode, Jordan.
We have mail?
We're going to, over the next couple months, we're going to get enough mail to do a full mailbag episode, Jordan.
It's going to be a lot of vamping.
We can do it. We need 10 questions. Whoa. Right now, we're at a handful, but we want your home improvement, podcasting, television, or you can even ask us semi-personal questions, but really just about our relationship, nothing beyond that. So you can tweet those questions to us at Home and Podcast. You can do it on Facebook, or you can send it to the ye old email address, which is
homeandpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, so send us those questions. Once we get 10, we'll record an episode probably around the end of summer, but I think it's going to be a whale of a good time, and personally, I can't wait for it.
It sounds like a blast. We should get like the old mail bag. Didn't they have that in Home Improvement where it said MALE bag? You don't remember.
Sounds about right. We've got a couple months to figure out the logistics, Jordan, but hey, dinner's cooking, and I got Swedish meatballs on the menu.
Ooh, I'm not even sure what I'm going to come out to, but it smells mighty good.
It's going to be a wonderful surprise. Jordan, it's been a pleasure. And I'll say, Jordan, thank you for joining me. Listeners, thank you for listening, and I guess I should say, take care.
Take care, everybody.